Between a disappointing loss for the Bulldogs and a shaky outlook for the Falcons, End Zone host Bill Shanks sure has a lot to talk about in this week's Rant and Rave. Here he is with our own Tucker Sargent.
Issue 1, who's to blame for the big loss in Clemson, South Carolina last week by the Georgia Bulldogs? I tell you, Tucker, I could go on for a while about this. I will say that it's kind of two-pronged. They got to blame Mike Bobo for the bad play calling. Oh, let's just go 3 times. Let's go Aaron Murray, the quarterback, and that offensive line, Tucker, was awful last week against Clemson.
Bill, I told you this game was going to go this way. I told you Clemson was going to win because they were the better team. I don't think anybody's to blame here in this game. It was back and forth the whole way, all the way down to the line, and Georgia just wound up being too little too late at the end.
Yeah, missed a field goal. That made a big difference, no doubt about that. All right. How about this week's game in Athens, God's country, between South Carolina and Georgia? I'll tell you what, they better bounce back, and they better not let Steve Spurrier have that swagger he'll have on the sideline.
Yep.
And if they think about last year's 35-7 loss in Columbia, they better use that as motivation, or if not, it'll be 35-7 South Carolina at halftime. I think Georgia will win this game, but I am very skeptical about it because I don't know how they're going to react when Jadeveon Clowney, that beast on that defensive line for the Gamecocks, comes after a very vulnerable offensive line that did not play well last week at all.
You know, speaking of Clowney, he took a lot of heat this week for not being conditioned last week against North Carolina. Maybe he was just playing around with those guys, and he's going to unleash it this week. But no, Georgia's not going to lose 2 in a row. They're going to beat South Carolina and start their quest to win the East this year. Let's
hope where my BS report next Tuesday will last for 30 minutes. No news on Tuesday. It'll be all
me. If they
me.
lose, I'm sure it will.
Yes. All right. Let's move to issue 3 now. The Atlanta Falcons, they'll start their season on Sunday in New Orleans. We'll talk about that game in a moment. First this season, how they do coming off a season where they were oh so close to the Super Bowl. Tell you what, Tucker, I'm worried about that offensive line. I don't know how it's going to do. Mike Johnson got hurt at tackle in the month of August. Then they got Lamar Holmes, of course, stepping in there. They signed a kid the other day from Tampa Bay who's not really played with them. I don't know. They've got the best skilled players in football, though, with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Roddy White and Tony G. Offensive line, though, being a question mark, that's always a concern for a team that wants to go and win a Super Bowl.
You know, it is a concern, but because of those skill players that you mentioned, they will, I think, win the division again this year. But with Sean Payton back over there in New Orleans, my boy Cam up in Carolina, they're going to struggle a little bit this year, but they are going to win the division, maybe 11-5, not as good as last year's 13-3 record.
Yeah, I think 11-5 too, but how they do in that month of January will be a big crapshoot if the offensive line does not turn around. All right, finally, the game. Week 1, New Orleans, Atlanta. It's the big rivalry, and we hate the Saints. They're going to win. They're going to beat the Saints, and Derek, yeah, the GM, yeah, sorry, it's not my fault that you root for the Saints. They're going down.
Yeah, well, Saints, Falcons, big deal every year. You know, I said the Falcons would lose 5 games. I think 2 of those games they're going to lose at home. New England, the Patriots, and they're also going to lose to the Saints, but they're going to win this weekend.
All right, let's hope so. We'll see you on Friday night for high school football at 11:15 with the End Zone.